AITA for kicking my husband out of the room until I give birth to our son. So I gave birth to our son almost a month ago. My husband is still pissed. My contractions were way more painful than I was expecting. The nurse helping me refused to give me an epidural, so it was only when I was moved to the actual labor room when a new nurse finally relieved some of the pain. And throughout all of this my husband was still on his way. Half an hour passes, and after they fully settle me in, he arrives and brought me some flowers. While I was glad he got me gifts, I would have preferred he got there earlier. But the moment passed, so I just forgot about it. He was joking around to try and make me feel better. And for most of my hours there it worked. After a while I was 8 centimeters and felt the need to push, but the nurses said I wasn't ready yet, so I had to consciously keep my body from pushing. This was the most hair-ripping, excruciating pain I have ever experienced. My husband went on, but after a while I said that he should stop. It was getting annoying and that I just wanted verbal encouragement. He loosely did it but made a whole joke out of it, like holding my hand but quickly making it into a dog and making it bark, or stroking my arm commenting on how I'm soft like a marshmallow. I told him multiple times to quit it and how he was stressing and annoying me, but it never stopped, and within that time I went from 8 centimeters to 10 centimeters. So as the nurses got the doctor, I told him to stop and that if he continued to stress me out that I would ask him to be removed from the room until our son arrived. He agrees and the doctor came. Everything was ready. Pushing started and my husband decides, "You've spread your legs farther than that. You got this," was appropriate. With my stress being at an all-time high, I lost it. I started screaming for him to leave, and since I was obviously in distress, the staff helped get him out. The birth went smoothly, but unfortunately, my peace was short-lived. While our son was being cleaned up, I was moved to a recovery room and my husband went off on me as soon as he came in. He was telling me that I was a bitch for not letting him see his son come into this world, and that I was overacting since all he was trying to do was cheer me up, and I told him that I clearly said he was stressing me and I warned him of what was going to happen. He loses it. He starts screaming that it's unfair, that he can never have that moment back, and how the 9 months were not worth this experience. Security removed him from the hospital altogether since he was screaming, and all I got the 3 days I spent in the recovery room were pissed off texts just repeating what he said but in different words. Ever since our son and I got home, he's been ignoring both of us. He has done nothing for our so this whole month. Not even change his diaper. I tried getting him to talk but silence. He's staying at his friend's house and I'm at a loss. AITA. Edit. I've had the proper chance to read through comments now, and while I don't know what exactly I'm going to do yet, I understand that something has to be done about him. I still feel guilt, but regardless of what happened in that delivery room, he's taking it out on our son. And that's not okay. My mom and aunt are coming to stay with me to help, since honestly going through this all and dealing with my emotions alone with a newborn is getting really hard. I'll update you all on what I do, what happens, but sincerely thank you to the majority for giving me further advice and making some good points that I will bring up to him. I'll still read new comments since I'm still thinking about courses of action and what I'm even going to say, but the point is something is going to be done. I can't have my son grow up with this behavior. Story 2. WIBTA for not attending my brother's wedding because I don't like his soon-to-be wife. My younger brother is getting married next week with his fiancée. I disapproved the relationship since the beginning because she was my first husband's mistress. I married with my first husband when we were 19 after 6 months of dating, and we divorced 2 years later because I found he was cheating with that girl. My husband sucked and our marriage was a mistake, but still it hurt. I know that after the divorce, him and this girl started a relationship and moved to another city, but don't know anything else. A year and a half ago, my brother showed up to our family's Christmas party with her and said they were dating. Of course, I got really angry and left early. My relationship with my brother had been rough this past months, and it's sad because he's my only brother and we had always been close since we were children. I think he's hurting me by marrying her, but he says I'm exaggerating because my husband cheating happened many years ago. And he also told me he won't forgive me if I don't attend his wedding, so I don't know what to do. Am I really exaggerating for being hurt by this? Story 3. AITA for being hurt that my wife won't allow me to see the birth of our baby and asking for some space. My wife is 8 months pregnant with our first kid and she has been finalizing her birth plan. She included me in the process, and I did my best to research and understand it. I went with her to see various doulas, picked a hospital together, established emergency plans, etc. I assumed I would be there for the birth, but she told me she didn't want me to see my daughter being born. She only wants her mother there and I could only come in once it's done to see the baby. It hurt like hell because I was obviously very excited about it. I asked why and she just said she'd be more comfortable that way. I said okay. I told her I'll let her do whatever makes her comfortable and I'll be on board with it, but that I'm very hurt and will need some space for a few days to take it in. I slept in the guest room and left before she woke up for work, and she's been blowing up my phone with texts about how it's unfair to punish her for doing what's best for the baby. She called and she was crying and telling me I'm putting so much stress on a pregnant woman for no reason, and that I'm an asshole for that. I don't think needing space for a few days is wrong of me, and I'm just asking her to let me take in what's happening. I can't pretend to be happy about missing the birth of our baby. She's so angry I'm wondering if I'm being a dick. Edit. No COVID restrictions for us. Edit 2. No, we're not the couple from the other post. My wife works from home. I don't work 14H and I was there for every appointment since the beginning. Story 4. AITA for not wanting to name my daughter after my husband's deceased wife and daughter. My husband John 32 meters and I 30F got married 2 years ago. I'm John's second wife. His first wife Isabel died 9 years ago in a car accident driving to an appointment. At the time, she was 7 months pregnant with a baby girl who they planned to name Rose. Rose also passed in the accident. John wasn't in the accident, but he blamed himself for their deaths since he was working and couldn't get time off to drive Isabel. Obviously this was very traumatic, and he had to go to therapy for a long time to recover. He still talks about Isabel sometimes and has pictures of her in the house. 5 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned, but John and I were still extremely happy. A few days ago, I went to the ultrasound appointment and it was revealed we're having a girl. For the past few days, we've been throwing baby name suggestions around. However, he came to me this morning and said he finally knew what our daughter's name would be. Isabel is a first name and Rose is a middle name. I was taken aback for obvious reasons and asked him why. He looked at me weird and said that it was to honor his late wife and daughter. This was surprising to me since we've talked about having kids before and he's never mentioned wanting to name our kids after Isabel or Rose. I told him I wasn't comfortable naming our child Isabel Rose since it would feel like we were trying to replace them. He kept trying to convince me and said that it would be like his late family could live again through our daughter. But I just want our daughter to be her own person, and to not feel like she's growing up in the shadow of 2 deceased people. John got mad and accused me of trying to force him to act like Isabel, and Rose never existed. I said that wasn't true and that we would still talk about them and remember them with our daughter. But he said the best way to remember them would be to name our daughter after them. He also called me a hypocrite because I suggested my sister's name as a middle name. I said that was different because our child would still have her own unique first name, and I only suggested it because my sister is planning on being a loving aunt. Finally, he called me disrespectful of the dead, and that he wasn't going to change his mind. He went to our room and hasn't come out. I consulted my family and friends, and while most of them agree I'm not tall, a couple of them are saying John is grieving and I should just let him name this kid and I can name the next one. One friend who's a therapist even said that this is John's attempt to ease his guilty conscience, and that refusing the name could make him spiral into self-loathing. I've also started to get Facebook messages from people I'm assuming are Isabel's family begging me to name my daughter after Isabel because they want another way to memorialize her. I hate to disappoint her family since they're grieving too, but I still don't want to. Am I being selfish?